Welcome back to another episode of The Update. This time, we're not doing it live, but don't worry. It's still great information. I've got Saul Klein. We usually have John. John is not with us today, but he'll be with us in the next one, the one we do live. Saul, we've got a lot of great things. The thing I want to start with is because this is kind of like the update. It started about the whole settlement thing. Let's start with that. So you're hearing that the Department of Justice may step in right before November 26th or 27th. I can never get it right.
I always think it's the 26th, but the only reason I get mixed up is you always tell me you can't remember what the
I
date
know.
is.
I'm the one screwing it up for you. Well, the Department of Justice may step in. What are you hearing?
Yeah, so great to be here, Tristan. Always fun to do these events with you. And so I just recently returned from CMLS. That stands for Council of Multiple Listing Services. And if you've never been to the CMLS site and you're interested in MLSs, you should go. People should go to cmls.org, right? And you go to the site and just look at just kind of look at all the different things, because MLS is really an industry. And we don't realize it because we look at it and use it in our daily lives. But there's really this bigger, greater industry around MLS. So once a year, CMLS meets, and it this year was in Seattle. Last year was in New Orleans. You know, like it's like I describe it as the NAR of MLSs. And so it's a great 2-day event, lots of information, all-day program. Had 1,000 people attend this one. People actually sign up, register, pay to be at this event. They get the top-notch speakers. Vendors are there talking about their new products that they bring to the MLS world. Existing vendors are there to talk to their clients, their MLS clients. So it's a great, great event. And so one of the most interesting panels is always the legal panels. And
yeah, especially right now.
Right now, it's really, really interesting. And Mitch Skinner, who's an expert, and a couple other of industry expert attorneys were on the panel. Ed Zorn from CRMLS was on the panel, and a couple other folks on these two different, and actually there were more than that, legal panel. So the question came up: do you think the DOJ will weigh in on the NAR proposed settlement? That's the $64,000 question, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's been asking that. And it was without question, every attorney on the panel agreed that they believe that the Department of Justice will step in and have something to say about the settlement. Now, if you read the MLS PIN statement of interest filed by the DOJ, we know that they don't like any pre-knowledge of any kind of money being paid to the buyer agent. They don't like that. We know that they believe that the settlement was a step in the right direction, but they weren't satisfied with it.
No.
They don't like the idea that compensation appears anywhere, and so NAR has removed that offer of compensation. But this idea of pre-knowledge, this idea of concessions, all these other things that we're all guessing about right now, people are wondering, will the DOJ step in? And what these panels of attorneys said is they believe that the DOJ will step in. And one of the reasons they believe that is because if the DOJ doesn't step in, they'll have a hard time stepping in later. It's like speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah, that's true.
It's almost like if you don't say anything, you agree.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and when they do say something, what will that something be, man? What's the rumor going around?
Yeah, so there wasn't much more speculation other than, I think this tells the tale, that they don't believe that the settlement goes far enough, which means that they might want to tighten down, because we're all making assumptions. People are making assumptions about, well, because it says concessions in the proposed settlement, you can offer concessions. You can talk about concessions. Where can you talk about it? What's allowed on the MLS? What's not allowed? We are certain that you can't make the MLS an offer of compensation. But beyond that, we're not sure. And hopefully we'll find out more from the DOJ when John Riley thinks they'll write us another statement of interest. They'll say, hey, we're interested. Now, that doesn't mean the judge has to follow it,
No.
right? But if the judge doesn't, and the DOJ doesn't like the outcome, remember, they have the ability to issue these CIDs, these subpoenas to gather information to go after the industry in any way they see fit. So they can almost twist your arm and break it to get you to do what they want you to do. And they have unlimited resources, deep pockets.
Well, they keep on printing money, so that makes sense. So that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So that was, it was interesting to hear. I kind of believe the same thing that we would hear from the DOJ. We've discussed it, but to hear, four expert attorneys say that they believe that we're going to see something, just kind of validated what we all were thinking.
Yeah, I think you're right. They're going to come in and they're going to say, listen, this all looks good, but we want it to be even better for the consumer. And this is what we think it should be like, right? Statement of information. And then that judge, hopefully the judge is like, okay, makes sense. Let's change some things. Because if he doesn't, then that means they're going to have to go through a different avenue, which could be worse.
Could be worse.
Yeah, interesting, man. All right, let's go to our second topic now that we touched on this. By the way, I hope this doesn't happen while you're in Italy, because then we're going to be at different times. That's good. I'm going to need help understanding this. I hope it's after. Okay, I hope it's after.
You can always reach me on WhatsApp.
That's right. That's right. All right, let's talk about something that's every Housing Wire, Inman, every real estate news outlet is talking about this. And it's got a new name, but you know what? It's an older name. What is the older name you brought up here?
Yeah, so you're referring to Clear Cooperation Policy, I believe,
Yes.
right? CCP.
Yep.
And that is a newly manufactured term. I think it goes back to like 2019, but here's the term people need to be familiar with. Mandatory submission. Mandatory submission. And so one of the reasons MLS, residential MLS works as well as it does is because of mandatory submission. And that is, and we've discussed this, when you belong to an MLS, you have to put your listings in. It's not like it's an option to put your listings in. You have to put your listings in. If you had the option to put your listings in, you'd only put your bad listings in. You'd keep your good listings for yourself and for your clients and for your office and for the ability to dual agent, double end, whatever term you want to use. People will refute this, but I disagree. I've been a broker for almost 50 years and there's no reason to keep your listing out of there's some, but little reason to keep your listings out of the MLS. And so we've always had a rule that said, hey, when you take a listing, you got to put it in the MLS, mandatory submission. And that's what makes MLS work. That's what makes me feel comfortable that, Tristan, you're going to put your good listings and your bad listings in. And if you're willing to do it, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to put my good listings and my bad listings in. And if we all do that, we create more for everybody. And so mandatory submission has been part of MLS forever. So
I have a question about this because we are seeing a split, right? We're seeing, I'm going to share my screen with you just so that we can talk about it. Let me go to this article, Inman News, where real estate's major players stand on clear cooperation. Let me go down because it'll say critics of clear cooperation, right? And obviously the one critic that everyone has heard consistently over and over and over and over from is Robert Refkin from Compass. He says, hey, we hate clear cooperation. It should never exist, right? And even Howard Hanna is saying, hey, you know what? No, it's not a good thing, right? And of course, Mauricio Umansky, right, who is already going after NAR, saying clear cooperation is terrible. But then you have other people, well, there's some in the middle, But then you have other people that are supporting it and saying, hey, you know what? Clear cooperation is a good thing. The surprise for me, Saul, was Redfin. Uh, it says don't end clear cooperation. I'm like, what? Right? That was interesting to me. And then our friend, well, EXP too, Leo Pareja says clear cooperation is a good thing. And Chris Heller's like, you know what? Let's keep clear cooperation in place. I
Yes.
want to know what you think. And I already know what you think, but I want to know again what you think
Yeah.
and
Well,
why it's important. Besides what you just told me about making sure that we all put all of our listings in there, not just our ugly ones.
so it's mandatory submission. That's a key phrase that people have to focus on. Now, Robert Refkin, he was at CMLS. I listened to him. And Glenn
Yeah.
Kelman was at CMLS. I listened to him.
Okay.
And so Robert Refkin, think about it. He's got like, doesn't he, isn't it Compass like the biggest, got the most agents of anybody?
No, no, no. They got like 27,000
Okay,
only.
so you got a big enough number to where if you can shop that listing within your group, you got a good chance of double ending that deal.
Yep, yep.
A great chance of double ending that deal. And
I,
so I listened to Robert Refkin carefully, and to me, he talked around this. He was not direct. Tell me why it makes sense for somebody not to put their listing other than their share or Stallone or right. In certain, I can understand certain cases and certain instances, and I can also understand that, hey, I got a property that only a few people are going to be interested in, so why should I open it up and let everybody see it if only a few people are going to be interested in it, right?
yeah, I listen, I get it. I get both sides, but I lean more towards you. Only because if I'm looking at it in a free market, right? And let's say, fortunately, what makes it a free market is that we're all playing by the same rules inside of our respective MLSs. If
Yeah.
we're all putting it in there, ugly, beautiful, price right, price not right, it's all going to go to one place and that it creates that fair market.
Yeah.
If we don't have that, then I can see why companies that are not doing well, and look, Compass is a publicly traded company. I'm not talking bad about them. I just want you to go take a look at their numbers. They're negative year over year. And if now they're keeping their listings off of the MLS, they have the chance of making more money if you're double ending it, right? And we'd have to
Absolutely.
think that way.
Absolutely. And I believe that when you listen to, you got to ask people, what are your reasons that you believe it's a good thing to
Yeah.
restrict the visibility or the exposure of the property? And with some exceptions, the reasons are not good reasons, right? They all revolve around this capability of selling your own listing.
What are the not good reasons, man? I want to know the not good reasons. What are you hearing out there that they think is a good reason? You're like, nope, that's dumb.
Well, one reason is security and privacy, and I don't want the bedroom pictures of my daughter on the internet forever.
Okay.
I understand the privacy issue, but if you want to sell your property, you're opening your door so people can walk in.
Yeah, and they're going to record it, and they're going to use cameras to take pictures.
There's got
It,
to be some marketing effort. And
yeah,
so one of the things is privacy. Okay, certain people, well, we don't want anybody to know we got our property on the market. And I can see where some celebrities might not want people to know they got their right. So there are reasons. And then with clear cooperation, there's a way to not put your listing in the MLS, and it's called the office exclusive, right?
yeah, yeah. I know that.
So you can keep it out if you want, but I don't believe that in most cases, not submitting your listings is in the best interest of the seller. I don't think it's in the best interest of buyers. I don't think it's in the best interest of agents who try and work to know what the inventory is so they can
Yeah,
bring buyers. And so to me, it is a self-serving position to take and to say that we think clear cooperation should go away. Now, Glenn Kelman was also at CMLS,
yeah.
and Glenn spoke.
What did Glenn say, man? Because I have a love-hate relationship
Yeah,
with what
Glenn's an interesting guy, huh? And so
yes.
I've only met him personally once, and that was in Washington, D.C., and he wanted to come talk to me about real estate syndication. That's when I was the CEO of Point Two. And he only had like an hour, and during that hour, he wanted to go for a walk. And so I had to conduct my meeting with him in Washington, D.C., around walking in the area. This was in northeastern part of D.C., which is very hilly. I was sweating like crazy, right? Before we were done with that. So he's a real interesting guy. He was really into help when I met him, and very, to me, thoughtful. And I think he understands the value that the MLS brings by this idea of mandatory submission. And
Mhm.
Chris Heller, the same way. These guys understand it, and they understand that the benefit outweighs the negative. Now, again, if you want to double in the deal, the best thing you can do is not put it in the MLS.
Of course, man. Off market, your own database, your own brokerage, sending it out, hoping that you get both sides. It totally makes sense. But then where does that leave? Just so I understand what you think. There was a company, I'm trying to remember the name of it. They sued NAR, and it was one of the a disc what we typically call it a discount brokerage, and they were only putting up their listings on Zillow. Do you remember them? Geez, I'm drawing a blank.
Was it oh, yeah, what's the name? Homie?
Yeah, that was one of them. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up right now. Company that sues NAR.
Well,
Uh,
so this is interesting. I had a conversation with the Housing Wire this morning around the rule against commingling.
yeah.
And Zillow was being sued by this company for not allowing, for following the NAR around commingling and not allowing commingling. And so
Wow.
Housing Wire, the interviewer wanted to know, and she couldn't find anybody, I tell you, she couldn't find anybody who was still alive that remembers why that rule came to be. Well, I was there when we invented that rule.
Of course you were, Saul. Of course you were.
And it had to do with, so you're right. So this company was suing because Zillow was putting their listings under another tab.
Was it Rex? It was
Might have been
Rex.
Rex, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're putting it under another tab, which I applaud Zillow for doing that because, and this is the kind of the history of this, before there was a World Wide Web, people advertised their listings for sale in the MLS and in newspapers and magazines. And when there was a web, there wasn't a lot of places to go. And the first real place that had what we referred to as a critical mass of the listings
Mm-hmm.
was Realtor.com. And who do you think went out and got the first million listings contract signed with MLSs to put their listings on Realtor.com? It was me. And
Well,
so who had to, and because there wasn't a web, there wasn't the World Wide Web, and I looked at it with people at NAR, and I was consulting with NAR, and I thought, well, this is a great place to advertise listings. But brokers were deathly afraid of this thing called public access to MLS because part of the value proposition that a realtor offered was you're not going to know what's for sale unless you come see me. And so that knowing we had the keys to the kingdom. And so
mm-hmm.
brokers didn't want to just let people know what was available. So all of a sudden, here's the World Wide Web. I had to find examples. You know, the first examples I could find?
What?
Movies, right?
Oh,
You look in the newspaper and you go to big movie ad, you go to the bottom of the movie, I said www dot, right? And I would make black and white acetate overheads because that's how I would do my presentations to explain to people what the World Wide Web was and why it was valuable to, as you as a broker, to put your listings here because more people will see it. And
mm,
so we got all the MLSs in the country to agree and they put them all on realtor.com. So we had what we called a critical mass. Now, if you don't want to hire a real estate agent to sell your property, but you know everybody's going to one place to look at listings, wouldn't you like to hang your listings right there with all these other listings?
of course.
Yeah, wouldn't you like to piggyback on the critical mass? And so
Yeah.
one of the things that I had in my presentations that we promised to the industry when we got the listings and put them on realtor.com was no FSBOs. No
Mm,
FSBO. So here we had this new marketing tool. Everybody was going to go to this new marketing tool to look at what was for sale. We didn't want people to be able to circumvent realtors by
yeah.
going to a website where you didn't need a realtor, right, to go in and finding FSBO. So we created the no FSBO concept, and that carried through. And then when the second generational portals arrived, like Zillow and Trulia, and they
Yeah.
thought, you know what, that makes sense. Why should you let people benefit from the critical mass that comes from the hardworking realtors that go out and work for free and finally get the listing and they put it up and somebody else doesn't want to hire a realtor, but they're going to get all the visibility because of all the realtors putting their listings together. So what evolved out of that is the no commingling rule. And it was, you can't mix the MLS listings with non-MLS listings, because that lets the non-MLS listings take advantage of what realtors are paying for with their blood, sweat, and tears and their subscription fees. And it allows certain people to circumvent them. And so that's the case you were talking about, I think, huh?
Yeah, that's it, man. You got it. You got it. Well, I know we've got more things. I want to save it for the live one, and you're going to be going. But you know what I did earlier, because I know we were going to talk about clear cooperation, and you and I wish John was here too, because I had a question for him. I thought I'm going to put in to Chat GPT. I didn't try it with other AI. I'm going to put in what Adam Smith from Wealth of Nations, the book Wealth of Nations, 1776, what Adam Smith would say about clear cooperation, according to Wealth of Nations, right? And I'm going to just show you, which I thought was kind of cool. I'm like, well, based on the whole book, right? Which the book was like open market. Let's make sure the right pricing happens by having an open market. And at the bottom, it says, would Smith support it? Based on Wealth of Nations principles, Smith would likely support clear cooperation policy as it promotes to three things: market transparency, competition, and efficiency. And those were the three things, Saul, that you told me like 2 sessions ago, which was hilarious to me. I was like, oh, Saul was right on. Anyway, just wanted to tell you that. Good job.
Thanks. Yeah. So this stuff, it's kind of common sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
it is.
yeah.
Which is another great book, Common Sense, a long time ago, but it is definitely common sense. I don't, the only thing that I find where I would say I understand Refkin, right? But he's not going to come out and say it, is we need to make more money as a
Yeah.
real estate company. And by doing this specific thing, which is let's get rid of this, right? Clear cooperation. It now serves our company more because we do have more luxury listings and we can sell them amongst ourselves because we've got the right pieces all across the United States, right? That's how I think. And then you see other people like Mauricio, who's a friend, right? I like Mauricio. He's a great guy, smart. And then I look at it, well, what's his reasoning? I go back to the PLS, right? It's like he originally started with something like that. Are there different reasons behind this besides what we're hearing up front? Yeah, I don't know, man. But I definitely I lean more towards this needs to stay in place until we figure out that's something better. And I don't know what that is right now.
No, I agree, Kristen. And I would also say if you believe that you don't want to put the listing in the MLS, it must be that you believe that it's in the seller's best interest that you don't put it in the MLS.
Yeah.
Because if you don't believe it's not in the seller's best interest, you got to do what's in the seller's best interest. You have a fiduciary duty to that seller. So if in fact you want to withhold the listing from the MLS, something we know benefits lots of people, just about everybody,
Yeah.
then you need to have, in my mind, what John and I refer to as informed consent. It's one thing to have a seller sign a statement saying, don't put it in the MLS. It's another thing to have a seller understand the consequences the benefits of either putting it or not putting it in the MLS. And if the seller really, it's not just they sign this form, it's does the seller really understand? And if the seller truly understands the way marketing of real estate works, and they truly believe it's in their best interest not to put it in the MLS, then have them sign a form, and by all means, don't put it in the MLS because you got a fiduciary duty. Now, one of the things, and here's a reason not to put it in the MLS, you'll pay less commission. Hey, list with me. Normally, I would charge you
Well,
X
that's
percent,
Rex. That's what Rex was
yeah,
doing.
but I'll charge you less than that. And if that is a benefit and you believe it's a benefit, seller, here's a statement where you sign and you understand that we're not getting maximum exposure. We're probably not going to bring you the greatest amount of offers, but we are going to save you some commission dollars. And a sign here, it's kind of like when you decide not to buy insurance on a rental car. They make you initial it, right? Oh, you don't want the insurance? Sign here.
That make me feel bad for not getting it.
Well, it makes you feel maybe I don't know what I'm doing here.
Right. All right, hold on. We're about to end this, but I have a question. When it comes to clear cooperation and informed consent, I could see why some people would be like, well, you know what? When you brought up the commission, right? Because it's negotiable, and you're like, I can't pay what some great agents are charging, right? But I can't pay what this other agent is charging. I want to go with them, and then they're not going to give you as much exposure. Sure, I don't care right now. I'm not in that position to be able to afford that. And then I go that route. With the way that clear cooperation currently stands, it's still okay. Like I can sign a document and still not have to include it into the MLS, right?
Yeah, you can get an office exclusive.
Yeah. And then I can do it that way too. I'm just saying, I'm like, there's
Sure.
no reason to get rid of clear cooperation. If you truly have a client that's concerned, you could just have that document signed and then you're still in this. It's like it doesn't exist. So I don't know what the big deal's about, man. I think we have a media situation here where they're just like they found something that triggers people and now they're just jumping on top of it because it's triggering everybody.
Yep, no doubt.
Yeah. All right. So you're out to Italy. Why are you going really quick? Why are you going to Italy? What's
I'm
going
going
on?
to the second annual MLS, International MLS Forum. So what we've got with MLS and the benefits that MLS brings beyond the offer of compensation, there's other things. There's the platform, there's the technology, there's the broker co-op concept of people sharing together and the collaboration. Other parts of the world, they want this. They want to know about this. And so this is a 2-day conference. It's in Milan, Italy. Last year it was in Paris. I'll be leaving Saturday for Milan, spend 5 days in Milan. I will be the moderator for a panel on the value of MLS data.
Nice.
And that's going to be a great panel. We've got people from a
MLS.
company called Realtina. We've got from CoreLogic, Kevin Green, Victor Lund from Wave Group, and Jeff Borsch from Iris, which is a Colorado MLS. So it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of people who are very interested in MLS, people from other countries interested in what we're doing. Probably marveling over the fact that we're trying to destroy something everybody else is trying to build, right?
Yeah. We're trying to destroy clear cooperation, and here they are telling us, "Hey guys, the way we're doing it, which is the way you guys want to go to, isn't working. We want to know how you're doing it so we can do it better." We should have led with that, Saul. We should have
Yeah,
led with. That's hilarious. With that, that's the latest. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Saul, thank you so much, man.
my pleasure. See you in a couple of weeks.